You want volume? You want the deep dive that breaks the character limit? Fine. Let's stop pretending we can summarize this. Let's go back to the moment the universe actually broke. We need to talk about the man who started this whole mess. Michael Faraday. Imagine 1831. London is covered in coal soot. The sky is the color of a bruised lung. Faraday is not a gentleman scientist. He is a blacksmith's son. He has no formal education. He doesn't know calculus. He can't read the fancy Greek symbols the French mathematicians are using. All he has is his hands and a brain that refuses to accept action at a distance. At this time, everyone, Newton, Ampere, the whole Royal Society, believes that forces jump from object to object instantly, like magic telepathy. Faraday looks at a magnet and says, "No." He sprinkles iron filings on a piece of paper over a bar magnet. You've done this in school. You saw the pattern. But you didn't see what Faraday saw. He didn't see a static picture. He saw tension. He saw the invisible muscles of the air flexing. He realized that the space between the magnet and the filings wasn't empty. It was modified. It was stressed. He called it the field. And this is the moment physics changed from stuff hitting stuff to fields waving in the void. But nobody listened to him. They laughed at his lines of Orse. They said, "Show us the math, Faraday." And he couldn't. He didn't have the language. So he spent decades in his basement lab, torturing copper coils and magnets, trying to prove that this invisible web was real. He spun a copper disc between the poles of a magnet. Current flowed. He moved a magnet through a coil. Current flowed. He realized that electricity and magnetism weren't just cousins. They were the same animal changing its skin. But he died without the vindication of a mathematical proof. Enter James Clerk Maxwell, the Scottish prodigy. He looks at Faraday's drawings, these scribbles of lines and arrows, and he sees geometry. He sits down and translates the blacksmith's intuition into the most beautiful language the universe has ever spoken: calculus. Maxwell produces 4 equations. Just 4 lines of ink. But inside those lines is a monster. When Maxwell combines the equations, something terrifying falls out: a speed. The equations predict that waves in this electromagnetic field travel at a specific velocity. He calculates the number, 300,000 kilometers per second. He looks at the number. He checks his notes. It's the speed of light. Do you understand the magnitude of this accident? Maxwell didn't set out to explain light. He was just trying to explain magnets and wires. But the math screamed the truth at him. Light is a ripple in the magnetic field. The thing allowing you to see this screen right now is just a vibrating magnet. Radio waves, X-rays, microwaves, colors. They are all just the electromagnetic field breathing at different frequencies. This unified everything. But it created a new nightmare, a paradox that would haunt physics for 50 years until Einstein killed it. Here's the paradox. If you run next to a beam of light at the speed of light, what do you see? Maxwell's equations say the wave must travel at light speed relative to everything. But common sense says if you run alongside a car at 60 mph, the car looks stationary. So, if you run alongside a light wave, it should look frozen. Stationary oscillating magnetic fields. But Maxwell's equations don't allow for frozen light. The math breaks. The universe prohibits it. This is where your magnet comes back in. This is the relativistic apocalypse I hinted at earlier. Let's drill into this because this is the hardest concept in classical physics. Imagine a long copper wire. Current is flowing. Electrons moving right, protons standing still. The wire is neutral. No force on a stationary charge nearby. Now, launch a cat. Yes, a cat covered in positive charge, running parallel to the wire at the same speed as the electrons. From the cat's perspective, the electrons in the wire are now standing still because the cat is matching their speed. But the protons? The protons are moving backward relative to the cat. Relativity says moving things shrink. Length contraction. The line of protons gets shorter. The protons get squished together. The density of positive charge increases. Meanwhile, the electrons, now stationary relative to the cat, expand back to their normal spacing. The balance is broken. The wire, from the cat's point of view, is now positively charged. It pushes the cat away. The cat feels an electric force. But wait. Go back to the lab frame, standing still, watching the cat run. You see a neutral wire. You don't see an electric field. But you see the cat getting pushed away. Why? You need a name for a force that acts on moving charges but not stationary ones. You call it magnetism. Do you see it? Magnetism is not a separate thing. Magnetism is just what electricity looks like when you view it from a moving reference frame. It is the universe balancing the books of relativity. The magnetic force is the required correction to keep the laws of physics consistent for all observers. When you hold two magnets, you are holding two lumps of relativity. You are feeling the space contraction of the electrons orbiting inside the iron. It is a relativistic effect, amplified by Avogadro's number, trillions upon trillions of atoms, until you can feel it with your human hands. But we have to go deeper. Because even this, the field, the relativity, is just the surface. We need to talk about the quantum vacuum. I told you earlier that empty space isn't empty. Let's zoom in on that empty space between the magnets until the pixel size is the Planck length. 10 to the power of 35 meters. At this scale, the concept of smooth space dissolves. The universe is foaming. Energy creates matter. Matter dissolves into energy. E rush or MC2. This isn't just for nuclear bombs. It's happening in every cubic millimeter of air in front of your face. Pairs of particles, an electron and a positron, rip themselves out of the nothingness. They exist for a fraction of a nanosecond. They look at each other, realize they shouldn't exist, and crash back together, annihilating into nothing. Vacuum fluctuations. The nothingness is boiling. When you bring a magnet near another magnet, you are disturbing this boiling soup. The magnetic field polarizes the vacuum. It lines up these phantom particles before they vanish. It's like combing the hair of a ghost. The energy density of the vacuum changes, and nature hates high energy density. It wants to minimize it. So the magnets move. They slide toward the position where the vacuum energy is lowest. The force you feel is the universe trying to relax. It is the vacuum itself trying to return to its most comfortable state. You are fighting the quantum foam. You are wrestling with the ghost particles of the void. Does that sound insane? It should. But we measured it. The Casimir effect. Put two metal plates extremely close together in a vacuum. So close that the bigger waves of virtual particles can't fit between them. Outside the plates, all waves fit. Inside, only small ones fit. Result? More pressure outside than inside, the plates are crushed together. By what? By nothing. By the weight of the empty space outside. We have measured this force. It is real. So do not tell me empty space is just distance. Empty space is a physical substance with weight, pressure, and rules. Now, let's pivot to the biological horror of this. You think this is just about magnets? Let's talk about you. Let's talk about the MRI machine. Magnetic resonance imaging. You slide into the tube, a massive magnet, superconducting, cooled by liquid helium, turns on. This field is 30,000 times stronger than the Earth's field. What happens to you? Inside every water molecule in your body, there are hydrogen nuclei, protons. Protons have spin. They are tiny magnets. Normally, they point in random directions, canceling each other out. But when that monster magnet turns on, they snap to attention. Trillions of protons in your brain, your heart, your liver, they all line up. You don't feel it. But for a moment you become a crystal of aligned spin. Then, the machine hits you with a pulse of radio waves. The protons get knocked over like spinning tops being slapped. They wobble. Precession. As they wobble, they emit a tiny radio signal of their own. The machine listens. And, from that whisper, we build a map of your inside. We are using the quantum spin of your own atoms to see your thoughts. We are using the relativistic distortion of space to find your tumors. This isn't abstract philosophy. This is the technology that saves your life, and it only works because the math is perfect. Because QED is perfect. So when you ask why, and get frustrated, realize that the why led us to the MRI. If we had stopped it, it's like a rubber band. We never would have found the proton spin. We never would have built the machine. We would still be in the dark, dying of preventable diseases, clutching our familiar metaphors like teddy bears. Deep understanding requires you to abandon the comfort of the familiar. Let's do one final zoom in, to the electron itself. The lonely singular point charge. We say, charge. What is charge? Why do some particles have it and some don't? Why is the electron 1 and the proton plus 1? Why not 1.5? Why is charge quantized? Why does it come in chunks? This is the Holy Grail. Grand unified theory. We think that at the moment of the Big Bang, all forces were one force. Magnetism, electricity, the weak nuclear force, the strong nuclear force. They were melted together into a single superforce. As the universe cooled, they shattered. Like ice forming cracks. Symmetry breaking. Electromagnetism is just a shard of the original crystal. The charge of the electron is a frozen accident of how the universe cooled down. If the universe had cooled differently, maybe electrons would attract electrons. Maybe matter wouldn't clump. Maybe stars wouldn't light. We are living in the specific ruin of the Big Bang that allows for complexity. So when you push those magnets, you are feeling the specific texture of our universe's cooling process. You are touching the scar tissue of creation. I want you to really sit with that. The mundane is the cosmic. The toy on your fridge is a relic of the first nanosecond of time. There is no line between physics and objects. There is only the field condensing into knots that we call matter, interacting through ripples we call force. You are a knot in the field. I am a knot in the field. The conversation we are having is a modulation of the field. There's nothing else. Just the silence, the math, and the vibration. Now I ask you again. Do you still want the rubber band? Do you still want the spring? Or are you ready to accept the infinite, terrifying electric dark? Because that is where the truth lives, not in the light of intuition, but in the dark of the equation. And if that doesn't break your brain, you aren't paying attention. But we need to take one final step. We need to connect this cosmic machinery back to the only thing that actually matters to you, your own experience, your own consciousness. Look at the light coming from your screen right now. What is it? It isn't magic dust. It is the electromagnetic field vibrating at 500 trillion times per second. That vibration hits your retina. It slams into a molecule called retinal inside your eye. That molecule changes shape. Why? Because the electromagnetic wave pushed its electrons into a new configuration. That shape change triggers a signal, an electrical impulse. A wave of ions, charged sodium and potassium atoms rushing through channels in your nerve cells. That electrical storm races down your optic nerve and crashes into your brain. And there, in the wet darkness of your skull, a miracle happens. The electricity becomes a picture. It becomes the color blue. It becomes the face of someone you love. Do you see what this means? You are not looking at the electromagnetic force. You are looking with the electromagnetic force. It is the medium of your reality. Every thought you have ever had is an electromagnetic event. Every memory you cherish is a specific pattern of synaptic connections held together by electrostatic forces. The love you feel, that is dopamine and oxytocin, molecules binding to receptors. How do they bind? Shape matching. What determines the shape? Electron shells repelling each other. Magnetism. You are a ghost made of energy, riding a skeleton made of stardust, observing a universe made of fields. And the bridge between you and the rest of existence is this force. This invisible, silent, terrifying force that you hold in your hand when you play with a fridge magnet. So when you ask, why do magnets repel? Realize that the question itself is an electromagnetic phenomenon. The neurons firing in your brain to form the word why are obeying the same laws as the magnet. The question and the answer are made of the same stuff. The universe is asking itself questions, using you as the microphone. This is why I pushed you so hard to let go of the rubber bands. Because if you settle for the rubber band, you stay small. You stay in the world of things. But if you accept the field, you become part of the infinite. You realize that you are continuous with the cosmos. There's no boundary where you end and the universe begins. The fields that make up your atoms extend outward forever, overlapping with the fields of the stars. And this brings us to the ultimate truth about science. People think science is about removing the mystery. They think we kill the rainbow by explaining the refraction of light. They think we kill the magnet by explaining the relativistic contraction of space. They are wrong, dead wrong. Science does not kill the mystery. It deepens it. It takes a simple, boring mystery, magic rock pushes metal, and turns it into a profound, terrifying mystery. Why does the universe permit local symmetries to dictate the nature of interaction? Why does the vacuum possess energy? Why does math, a creation of the human mind, perfectly describe the behavior of an electron that has existed for 13 billion years? That is the mystery you should worship. Not the gap in your knowledge, but the depth of the structure. The fact that we can understand it at all is the strangest thing of all. We are monkeys on a rock orbiting a mediocre star in a random galaxy. And yet, we have stolen the fire of the gods. We have written the code of reality on a blackboard. We have looked into the heart of the magnet and found the curvature of space-time and the quantum foam. That is the victory. That is the glory of being human. We don't get the easy answer, we get the real one. So, the next time you feel that push, that stubborn, elastic, ghostly push between two magnets, don't be frustrated that you can't visualize it like a spring. Be grateful. Be grateful that you are touching the raw nerves of the universe. Be grateful that you are holding a piece of the architecture that keeps the stars burning and your heart beating. You are holding the force that binds the cosmos together. And for a brief moment you can feel it fighting back. That is enough. That has to be enough. Now, I want you to go down to the comments. I want you to tell me something honest. When I stripped away the rubber band analogy, did you feel disappointed? Did you feel the loss of that comfortable lie? Or did you feel the thrill of the free fall? Did you feel the vertigo of seeing the ground drop away? Because that vertigo, that is what truth feels like. Write it down. Let's argue about it. And if you want to understand gravity, the other invisible monster, hit subscribe. Because if you thought magnets were weird, You have no idea what's coming next. Welcome to the deep end.